Recently, DICE lowered sniper muzzle velocities and dramatically increased bullet drag, which means bullets now lose even more speed over distance and drop more as a result. So the real question here, which I want to focus on today, is whether or not these changes made sniping harder and whether or not this has pushed sniping into a better spot. Even with the changes, within roughly 150 to 200 meters, sniping ultimately still feels fairly similar to how it did before the update. You may need to slightly lead a little more or compensate a little more, but the difference is not that dramatic. At these distances, if you're experienced enough, you should adapt fairly quickly, and aggressive sniping is still going to be just as viable as it was prior to the update. So no, I wouldn't say that the update made sniping significantly harder across the board, especially seeing as most engagements are going to be within 150 meters, depending on which game mode and style of play that you have. At longer ranges, the increased drag becomes much more noticeable here. Bullets take longer to reach the target, and as a result, require more lead against moving players and drop significantly more than they did before. This means that players now need a better understanding of distance, trajectory, and target movement instead of just being able to place the crosshair only slightly above or ahead of somebody that's on the move. To me, the added drop is more of a visible change here, but the increased travel time may be the more meaningful one. Drop against a stationary target can eventually be memorized. However, against a moving target though, the longer travel time gives that player more opportunity to stop, change direction, or just move unpredictably after a shot has already been fired. So this can make hitting shots at longer ranges more difficult, but it also can create more consistent separation between players who can properly predict movement and players who are mostly relying on the rifle's velocity to make the shot easy. This is also where I think the update has improved the skill gap here. Good sniper players should still be able to land these shots, but they may now have to make more deliberate judgments about range, lead, and what the other player is doing. When it comes to the less experienced players, they're going to be more likely to struggle once targets are further away and especially moving laterally. Granted, this doesn't mean that every long-range kill suddenly takes an incredible amount of skill, but it does mean the game is asking more from the player than it was before, and importantly here, the added difficulty is concentrated more heavily at range instead of making close and medium range sniping feel unnecessarily clunky. I think an implicit benefit here is that it also gives infantry players a little more breathing room. Before the update, some sniper rifles felt more like a point-and-click kind of weapon even at fairly long distances. The high muzzle velocity reduced the amount of prediction required, and that gave infantry little room to move once a sniper had a clear angle. However, now distance shots take longer to arrive and require more accurate leading. This gives infantry a slightly better chance of surviving through movement, changing directions, or simply making the shot more difficult to predict overall. It doesn't remove the threat of snipers because good players will still punish predictable movement, but long-range sniping is going to be less automatic than it was before. Overall, I do find that the update pushed sniping in a more skillful and generally healthier direction. With certain ranges like we talked about, the difference is still fairly limited, but at longer ranges, the added travel time and bullet drop make shots more demanding. So this should create more separation between stronger and weaker players, while also giving infantry a little more breathing room against distant snipers. This being said, I'm still uncertain how I feel about bullet drag as a system being used to create these changes. It adds another way to balance the sniper rifles, but it may also make their trajectories less intuitive and harder to compare. But that is a larger discussion that I think is better suited for its own video, which I plan on covering soon. But strictly in terms of how the update has affected the gameplay, I think sniping is in a better spot now than it was before. So do you feel like the update created a better balance between snipers and infantry, or has it gone too far? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I'll catch you on the next one. RAMTEID out.